Peace and blessings, divine. Welcome to Lady Sapphire Radio. I am your host, Lady Sapphire, and tonight is Magic Monday, one of my favorite evenings, where we can talk about practical magic and how to use, the gifts that you've been given, the ones that you were born with, and some that you may, pick up here and there, things you just learned. And, tonight is about magic, black magic, that is. And I'm really excited about this. I've been looking forward to this show. Our guest has not shown up in the queue yet, but we're just going to go ahead and flow like we always do. And but tonight's special guest is none other than Chief Priest Yuya Assaan-ANU. That's right. I got a little tongue-tied. I want to make sure I get it right. Chief Priest Yuya Assaan-ANU. I got that thing. I hope guess. It's not hard at all. But anyway, he's going to be here this evening. He is the Chief Priest of the Nigerian Orisha. He has initiated many people into the Orisha tradition, and I'm really excited to hear what he has to say tonight. He is also a blog talk radio show host, and so he's here to talk about black magic and how to help you work your black magic and your special gifts, because of course we all are gifted. It's all about tapping into that energy to be able to utilize it and to recognize how powerful you really are. So again, this is nothing new. This is what we do all the time. And as far as black magic, for all of those, really sensitive, scary folks, there's nothing to be afraid of, If you look at the symbols of the yin and the yang, it's all about balancing the energies of dark and the light. If you always walk in the light, well, baby, you always under attack. That's the way I see it. Things are born, beautiful new energies are born in the darkness. If you plant a seed, you must plant it in the darkness. A baby is born. It is born in the darkness. So everything that grows, there's this energy that I love about the darkness, and black magic is just one of those energies that you can use to manipulate things for yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that, love. Everyone's doing it. If you're not, you can go ahead and check in on us, because that's what's going on. The government uses it. Those powers that you may go and get spiritual wisdom and guides from, they understand it. So, it's time to check in and use some, get some new energy, new information, all right? Chief Priest Yuya Assaan-ANU. Peace and blessings. Welcome, brother.
Oh, give thanks. Welcome. Thank you for having me on the space. I'm right here with you.
All right. Yeah, I feel you got me too. Right there, I feel it. So we've been really looking forward to having you here. As I explained to you before, I've announced that you are coming, and most of my listeners know who you are simply because you are phenomenal from what I've heard. Now, I've listened to your show several times, and I agree. You are a phenomenal gifted teacher, and because there's only a certain teachers that I can sit and listen to and absorb. I'm not that I think I'm better than anyone, but some folks, you just that's that energy to be able to be receptive and to feel like you are in a safe place. And that is exactly what I get from you when I listen to your show. So, first of all, welcome everyone, Chief Priest, to the show. And tell me all about yourself. Tell me about yourself, and let's get this thing started.
All right. I'm one who has been dealing with spiritual sciences, or I should say deliberate spiritual sciences, for a bit over 2 decades. Now, I've been, initiated in various systems and come through many different schools of learning from a very young age. I didn't have a cathartic moment of awakening in my life, but kind of was always on a very conscious and deliberate path towards trying to understand why I got dropped here on this particular planet in this particular time and this identity. So searching for that answer And moving through this life journey with that purpose in mind and the conviction of that purpose in mind led me to many different doors that I was able to knock on. And fortunately, through very divine coincidence, I was able to encounter many master teachers, those who I would consider to be master teachers, and just in various disciplines, not just spiritual matters, music as well, and martial arts and technology. You know, a lot of the people who I encountered in my life were at the next level of what they did. You know, so I was always able to be around refined eldership. So that created a certain and built a certain mind in me. And that mind eventually led me to be able to teach others and to share with others what it is that I've learned and what it is that I do. And mainly I consider myself to be somewhat of a Pan-African spiritualist or Pan-Indigenous spiritualist, where I look to kind of assimilate and reconnect and rejoin the fragmented pieces of ancient traditions that have been presented to us in a very thwarted and a distorted manner because of the intrusions of various other cultures that came in and sought to mangle them. So a lot of the work that I do is really reconnecting the dots with people, and you know, they seem to appreciate it because you know, they don't always have to throw everything away in order to get new lessons. They can see where maybe some of their previous lessons now apply to where they're at now, or their new school of thought. So I've been doing that for some time. I'm a teacher. Of course, I have a school by the name of Sadulu House, and I'm an author as well. I have a few books out, one of which, Grasping the Root of Divine Power and Solutions for Dysfunctional Family Relationships. And I also run a publishing company where we have some other titles like Natural Hair for Young Women. So there's a lot of different things going on this side of the phone. But I'm enjoying it. I love what I do, and I love my work, you know, and people are appreciating it. Excellent. And it shows. Like I said, you know, when I announced that you're going to be here, I got, you know, a lot of people who were really interested in connecting with you as well. And we're really excited that you were going to be here as well, because they've connected to this energy here. So, you know, it felt that it would be a compliment. So I'm glad once again to have you with us. So I'm listening to you talk about connecting the dots, and tonight's topic is about black magic. And when you talk about connecting the dots, because we have lost so much of our tradition, and bringing those entities and those energies back together and giving them honor, and allowing people to use the tools that they have already, gained on this path, on this life path, and being able to embrace those, as well as opening them up to new experiences and opportunities to learn more of the indigenous traditions. So we're here to talk about black magic tonight. So I can't wait to get it started. I've told everyone in the chat room, make sure they have their pencil and paper, because they'll be learning a lot tonight. Starting with there, talk to me about black magic. What is black magic? Sure, not a problem. Now, of course, most of what we're speaking on is for parenthetical and conceptual reference, because others can define things literally and say black is a color, and and magic is something else, a concept or a product of imagination. So or some could just say black magic is wicked magic, however they want to interpret it. But in its original form and meaning, if we look at black magic is the magic that is done through and in the dark. It's pretty simple. First, it probably helps to speak about black magic by addressing what magic is first. And then once we kind of have a better understanding of magic, then we'll understand why magic can have various shades and characteristics that span the color spectrum. So magic is a methodology, or whether it be systematic or whether it be impulsive and spontaneous, magic is nothing but a method that one uses to get something done. That's all magic is. Okay, so whether you're using aluminum foil on your television antenna, or whether you're using a piece of gum to pick up something that's dropped in a sewage grate tied to a string. These are all things that are actually magical, because what you've done is you stepped outside of the supposed use of certain objects and of certain things and forces in order to get something done in your life. Okay, so magic is the process of transmutating or transforming, or more appropriately, reappropriating an object or a force for your purposes. This is what magic is. Okay, I remember many years ago when I was in my early, maybe late teens, early 20s. I had an apartment, and I was really trying to get into learning how to prepare food for myself at a level that if I had a young lady come over, like, I could have food there and do the whole chef thing. And I for a little while really got into this thing of adding corn chips, Frito-Lay corn chips to everything I cooked, because I just thought that was just the most ingenious idea that I could come up with. Because I said, well, they put all the work already into seasoning these things. So instead of me sitting here trying to figure out seasonings, all I gotta do is just get different flavors of potato chips and put that into whatever I'm making. Like if I'm making a stew, just throw the chips in there, and there's my seasoning. So it worked. For a little while, I guess, for the type of people who I had coming over my apartment.
That one, huh?
They fell for it, because at that level, they were probably eating corn chips all day, everywhere, so everything is a level. So that worked perfectly, and I did that for a long time until I outgrew. Eventually I outgrew the corn chip trick. And I learned some other things, but that was magic, right? Because corn chips were not necessarily intended for that, but I was able to transmutate them, to turn them into something else for my purposes and for my needs. I could grind them up into seasoning. That's actually magic. Now, of course, one might say, but isn't magic also doing spells and doing rituals and incantations? Certainly. But with any spell or ritual or incantation that you do, you are still transmutating an ordinary object and making it sacred. Or you're taking ordinary words and making them sacred. You're taking an ordinary motion like walking or dancing or moving your body a certain way, and you're making it sacred. So in fact, by making it sacred, you're sacrificing it. Sacrificing only means to make something sacred. Okay, so that is what magic is. It's changing things. It's changing things from their original purpose in order to make them something else. So slang, ebonics, different forms of music that are derived and originated in areas and countries where people do not have resources to instruments as we know them. This is all magic. As is conjuring wind energies, conjuring water energies, getting money, getting a mate, protection, offensive magic, so forth and so on. This is magic. Now, when we deal with the color spectrum, for most of us, we think of magic often in the white form. White magic deals with magic that comes more from information and enlightenment. Okay, that's the white magic. White magic is the magic of enlightenment. But it's important for us to first understand why there is a color spectrum in magic to begin with. And for us to also understand why that color spectrum is actually a prison. And it's one of the reasons why your magic may not be working at the level that it should. When we came to this planet, okay, what we are the light beings that are encased in darkness. Okay, now this is no different from your story of Lucifer in the Bible, okay, who had a desire or an inclination, and more importantly, he had will. He said 11 times, I will. And his last I will was, I will soar the heavens even higher than you, saying that I will transcend you. And of course, God is saying, I need you to transcend me because I'm maxed out. So I need the next level to be better than me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cast you out. and you're going to fall into the darkness, to the dust, angel dust. You're going to fall into the darkness, and that darkness is your melanin. And through that darkness, you're going to become corrupted. And through your corruption, you're going to learn to be more perfect than what I am. And then when you get redeemed back up to the light, now the heavens are better than they were before. But in order to get that, there had to be a fall. This is no different than the fall of Atum, or Adam and Eve, falling down, okay, from perfection. So your black magic is the magic that exists at the bottom of that color spectrum. It's your last stop before you take your return trip back up. If we're coming from the light, which is enlightenment, we're falling down. And as we're falling, we're going through the various color spectrums. Now, one of the reasons we also know that, because many traditions that we deal with have things like angelic energies, or they have Orisha, or they have Lawau, or they have Necharu, or they have Nkisis, and it goes on and on and on and on. And what you'll find is that each one of those, even the saints, but each one of those archetypes has a color associated with it. And we're told that, hey, if we put out amber or gold and yellow, we can attract the Ashe of Oshun. If we put out yellow and green, we can contact Heteru or Hathor. Okay, so these colors are the falls or the rise that we go through in order to either head down to the dark or be redeemed back up to the light. Okay, so we're starting at that white energy. So when you first came into the world, your only magic really was white magic, as it should have been. But you were supposed to go through the colors until you mature into that ripeness, as most things get. When they mature or they ripen, they typically get very dark and heavy. And black is a dark, heavy color. And in that dark heaviness of the blackness, you have wisdom. Yes, and sweet. Exactly. And they get very sweet. Okay. And that sweetness is actually your test, because the test of the sweetness is for you to now ask yourself, am I in love with life? Because life is so sweet now. And if I'm in love with life, perhaps I've forgotten that the whole point of this thing is for me to be redeemed back up through the color, or what we call the chakras or the kundalini, and come back up into that whiteness. Okay. So now with that understanding, we understand that when we're dealing with black magic, that it's not just black magic. We have red magic, yellow magic, green magic, white magic, pink magic. There's all different forms of magic depending on the stage that we're at. So black magic now, that form of magic deals with the things that transform you. And they transform you because they corrupt you. These are the things that remind you of your humanity, but make you go deep down into the darkness of your subconscious. That is the dark aspect of magic. And only there can one transform themselves. Enlightenment comes from the white magic. Transformation comes from the dark magic. And in between, you have stair steps that help to facilitate the journey and set up things in your life by default. That's why when we pray to angels that have certain colors associated with them, we usually pray for earthly things. We're praying that our rent gets paid, or we get a mate, or that we're safe driving home. These are the steps in between the white and the dark. So black magic is the magic of melanin, or the magic of corruption. It's not wicked. It's not against nature. It's a part of your process. And you have to go through the darkness of that heaviness in order to be redeemed back up to the light. And there's a time period where the white magic won't even work for you. There's a time period when you mature where the only thing that will work for you is digging into the recesses of your subconscious mind and your wisdom. And that's the only magic that's going to work. That is black magic in this time.
I say. All right. Now, I love the way that you expressed that. It's kind of what we talk about here all the time. You got to go in. You got to go deep. You got to go within to find out who you are and to be able to appreciate who you are and to operate in your gifts. So with that, now we're talking about black magic and using our spiritual gifts. Can you talk to us about that? What are some of the, the ways to use, now that, that we've accepted that energy of the black melanin, or the melanin, and the depth, and going within, how can we use those gifts? How can we use those spiritual wisdoms to serve our highest good? Because, of course, we want to let go of those things that no longer serve our highest good so that we can move back into that place of enlightenment. So how can we use, those gifts, those wisdoms?
Well, one of the main important things that one needs to do is to use imagination. That's the first step in the understanding of black magic, is to imagine. Okay, the first step that we have to kind of come to is to begin to remove the linear thinking from our spirituality. And part of that linear thinking is our reliance on spell books, our reliance on individuals, their interpretation of things like the tarot card. We buy tarot decks, but then we need the book that accompanies it so we can understand what the cards are saying. Those are products of white magic, because in that white magic we need information, and dark magic you need imagination. Okay, so one of the first things that we need to apply is to start paying more attention to the things that we're dreaming about when we're traveling through those astral planes, and our subconscious is delivering messages to us. That's really where your rituals, where your most powerful rituals, are being explained and shown to you. So one of the things that we want to do, which is real simple, is when you have certain dreams that bring you to a place of empowerment. Obviously, when you wake up, you want to document them and you want to journal them. But what you also want to do is you want to try to reenact those through ritual. Look at what the dream was and figure out, how can I reenact this astral event here on the planet? Because it's a ritual and it's a spell that came straight from what we call Olokun's realm, or the subconscious mind, the deep darkness of the water. So the first thing, is imagination. We have to start digging into the imagination, and we have to get rid of other people's interpretations for right now.
That's a safe place to be. Go within, trust your intuition, and trust that you're being guided. Now, what would be that's your first step. Now, what would be step number 2?
Step number 2 is we want to start looking at the things that we are already doing in our life. And as opposed to trying to clean up anything, especially the things that are very human about us, like our vices, or the things that make us kind of quick to anger. What we want to start doing is examining those things and trying to find the divine mythology within them. Okay, so if you're one who likes certain types of food, or you're one who likes to wear certain types of colors, or you find yourself always attached to certain types of mates, what you want to do is start to look at that and determine what the mythology of your life is. When we understand going through these different polarities, as white is a polarity, black is a polarity, but it's a shifting of things. Like we talk about the 2012 shift, and everybody was trying to figure out what was happening. It was a changing of the guard. And what was happening was that black magic, or melanated magic, was coming to the forefront. And that's one of the reasons why right before that, there was this huge proliferation of white magic techniques that were released. You go to the bookstore, there were different films that came out, and it was so accessible all of a sudden to get all of this white magic information. And the reason being is because it doesn't work in this time. The only things that are going to work are the dark magic. So you want to look at the things that your human consciousness, or what we call the spirit, what's your human spirit, because when you're dealing with the difference between white and darkness, your soul is the dark magic, your spirit is the white magic. Okay, or more, and that white magic is tricky with your spirit because it can be easily blemished and it can change colors. Your soul will not change colors because your soul is undifferentiated. Okay, it's like a womb. It has a baby, goes right back to being a womb. Nothing's different, nothing's changed. Okay, so what we really want to look at, second step, is the things that we're already doing, and we want to start scripting out a mythology based on what our birth name is. Don't worry about what the divine name that you took on. That's a part of it too, but the name that you were actually born with, where you were born, your parents' names, and your career, the things that you aspire to, and start to make this determination and envision this. If for many ages we were sending praise and energy up to the heavens so that the heavens can support us, if the poles have shifted, and as above so below, and as below so above, if the poles have shifted now, then that would mean that the heavens are now redepositing that ashe and power back into us. So the reality is the heavens are looking for us, for example, and model of how gods function and interact. And it has nothing to do with morality. It has nothing to do with the eradication of your addictions and vices. It has to do with looking exactly at where you're at right now and what mythology and power comes from that. Because if we look at some of the stories of ancient archetypes, or what people like to call gods, some of them did some of the, what would seem some of the most horrible acts. But we have to realize that they sit outside the morality code that's usually imposed on us by man's religion. And they function with the science of isness. It just is what it is.
So that would be step 2.
You said the science of what?
Isness.
Isness. I like that. It just is what it is. That's great. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I love that.
That's okay. It's all right. So, so that those are some of the first steps we want to take. And then we want to start looking at, again, not only the things that we do daily, but we want to start looking at representations and expressions of abstractness. One of the first things you got to realize that when you're dealing with the science of black magic, that it's the science of awkward, clumsy, mangling, and artistic creativity. Okay, that is the science of it's the science of chaos. If we understand something about even biblical scripture, when it was said that the Most High looked down into the waters, and the waters were void and without form, what it was looking down into was a womb, and the womb was the waters, and the waters were chaotic. Okay, so we're dealing with now the science and the aspects of chaos, because without chaos, nothing can be created. So the only thing that man does, or we as man and woman, when I say man, I'm saying Memph Alf Nun, which is woman, man, child, Memph Alf Nun. So the only thing that man does is brings order to God's chaos. God's a chaotic entity. Okay, so in understanding that, we're now coming, because we've been functioning in the realms of order for very long now, and the order was about us really just acclimating to the planet, learning how to be human. Our job now is to learn how to be chaotic again. And a prime example of what we would call organized chaos would be jazz music. If one were ever to listen to jazz music, it is for the most part complete improv. It's a lot of ad-libbing, but the ad-libbing and the improv is still very syncopated. The drummer knows what the bass player is doing, the bass player knows what the piano player is doing, everybody knows what the saxophonist is doing, so forth and so on, because everybody is moving within the same frequency of chaos. And because of that, they're able to create any option that they desire when they're doing music. Whereas if you listen to a lot of contemporary music, what's used now is drum machines, and they're programmed to a grid. Now that grid removes the possibility for chaos. So because the possibility for chaos is removed, the possibility for creation is removed. Okay, so that's one of our biggest issues. We have to get out of routine and get more back into ritual. And that may mean, because now we have to deal with, we're in the Kali Yuga era. Kali Yuga era coming into the Orisha tradition would be Oya. Buddhist tradition would be Tara or Kuan Yin. But when we're dealing with or Sekhmet in the Kemetic tradition, but when we're dealing with the aspect of Oya, we know that the theme of chaotic transformation is never far behind. So chaotic transformation deals with us having the courage to abandon our foundations. So this is a season coming into this black magic and the understanding of properly utilizing black magic. You're going to have to come into a place when you're ready to destroy the foundations of your relationships, destroy the foundations of your information, destroy the foundations of even how you perceive magic. And through the destruction of those foundations, and through the willingness to allow yourself to be swept away in that chaotic transformation, that's when you will finally fully flesh out and unleash as the God that you're supposed to be. And that's when you can really start making your journey back home. That's when you start rising up and going back up the chakra ladders and going back home.
And what did you think about the music that we played for you?
The music was excellent. It was very hypnotic. You know, whenever you have that drum, it's hard not to connect to it because it's such a simple instrument, just wood and skin. You know, so wood and skin is like the only thing as simple as that is an acoustic guitar. But it speaks right to your chest cavity. You know, so
I felt that.
that's how we communicate. Yeah.
It is.
Primal
it
sound.
is. I felt it over here. Yeah. So, is there anything else that you would like to share with us before we go to the queue?
Sure. I'm gonna share or want to share a little technique that folks can use to begin to formulate not only their own rituals, but more importantly, to initiate into movement. I know a lot of the challenges that people have when it comes to magic, spirituality, or even culture is like, where do I begin? What's my first step? And that's why they go and reach for the books and say, well, I could just start doing a bunch of spells out of here or rituals. But I have a little small technique I'll give that I teach in a workshop that I do, but I'm going to give you a condensed version of it. And I'm going to use the tetragrammaton in order for folks to understand. And if anybody knows what that is, it's that those lettering you always see, which is YHVH, which is supposed to be Yahweh in the Hebraic tongue, or Yehovah, or Jehovah, as many people say. But Yehovah and Jehovah, because there were no J's in the English language and the V is replaceable with a Y, we know that Yehovah is also Oya. So Jehovah is actually the Orisha Oya. And that's why when Moses would go to speak to Jehovah, he would always have to go up the mountain into a storm cloud, and the Lord God would speak out of a storm cloud. That was Oya speaking in that particular dispensation. So one of the ways to tap into that, and the reason why I bring up the tetragrammaton is because that's the number one tool that's used in this day and time to keep you from tapping into your dark magic. It's used to keep you on a certain frequency of light and a certain sound. Okay. And Yahweh is another name, as we're told, for God. So God is actually your prison warden. God is keeping you a prisoner in human and slow moving materialistic thought through the use of the form of the 7 chakras, or the 7 seals, which are nothing but the 7 holes in your head, but also this idea of Yahweh. So if we look at each word, each letter, we have YHVH, and Y represents the word Yod, and Yod is fire. Okay. But it's the eastern direction. Okay. And that represents knowledge, as well as the things that we see and the things that we are brave enough to be convicted about. Okay. It's the movement of actualization is Yod, or fire. It's being actualized. And then we have the first He, which is in the north, and that represents air. And those are the things that represent our potentiality, okay, or even our potential intelligence, okay. And you always want to start in the north when you're doing things. If you start in the north, you always want to start with a very deep breath, okay, to get a sense of Oya inside of you, or air inside of you. You want to start there, okay. And then you move to Vav, which is that V, which is water, which is also in the west, representing not only your emotions, but the things that affect your sense of taste and the acknowledgement of the temporal nature of your body, okay. And then when you go into the south, you come to that other He, which is earth, okay, and that represents your consciousness. or your stability. And it also represents your vigor, right? How resolute that you can be. Now, when you're dealing with those 4 directions, you have 4 Orisha that reside over them. In the east, where there's fire, you have Obatala. In the north, where there's air, you have Shango. In the west, where there is water, you have Oshun, as well as Olokun. And in the south, where there's earth, you have Yemoja. So a very simple thing that you can do in order to actualize and be those energies, as opposed to praying to them and asking them, you put yourself at the center of that north, south, east, west compass. That center in Yoruba tradition we call Ile Ife, which means the house of love, Ile Ife. Okay, but you putting yourself at the center of the universe, as Fela Kuti said, Africa's the center of the universe, you are the center of the universe. And once you realize you're at the center of the universe, these 4 directions, and there's other directions, we're just keeping it basic for now, these 4 directions are your tools for self-actualization. Self-actualization is tapping into that jinn energy, just like the genie, your wish is my command. And when you tap into being at that center, like Aladdin, the one who rubs the lamp or who rubs the pineal, you now have these 4 forces, the forces of the north, south, east, west, fire, earth, water, when you have these entities now at your command, just by understanding the tetragrammaton, by facing these directions and acknowledging the energy that's there out of your mouth. So you could face the north and say, I give honor to the wind that is in me, controlling the wind that's outside of me. The east, the fire that's in me, controlling the fire that's outside of me. The south, the earth that's in me, controlling the earth outside of me. And the west, the water that's in me, controlling the water, so forth and so on. And this is a very simple technique that you can use to start. But once you do this, and even if you want to still pick up some of maybe the rituals and the spells that you already know, you're going to have a totally different sense of ashe, chi, prana, and power that you step into it with. You're going to see it differently, and it's going to enact and activate differently in your life.
Excellent. All right, I like that. Now, this is very similar to what they do in Kabbalah as well, correct?
In a sense, when they're activating, but those directions are more based off of indigenous teachings, as is the Kabbalah, of course. But when you're dealing with the Kabbalistic system and you're activating those you're usually only just using your two polarities. You're using left and right. So even when we're dealing with the tree, you're using the pillar of severity and the pillar of mercy, and you're kind of pulling them together into the center. So it's a little different in that you have with this, when you're going from east to west, you have more of an acknowledgement of the temporal nature of your life journey, and when you're going from north to south, you're acknowledging more the eternal aspects of yourself. Okay, so really what you're doing here, you're still pulling together masculine and feminine, but you're more so pulling together your soul or ethereal body with your human identity. Okay, and what you're doing by putting yourself at the center, you're going through the center of the cross, which is what all the trickster deities are trying to get us to do. They're trying to get us to, at the crossroads, not to go left or right, but to go into the center, right, to go through. So this initiates that.
And the reason why I'm asking that and I'm bringing that in is because, we have people who listen from so many different backgrounds and different traditions, and I want them to be able to understand how to tie this in. How you explain it is perfect, which, I completely understand. And but, if, say, for instance, someone's coming in from the Christian tradition, how would you explain it to them? Because they may not understand Oya or Shango or Yemeya. They may not understand that energy. Of course, I'm sure that they understand that, north, south, east, and west, fire, spirit, wind, earth, and water. But how would you express this to someone who's coming from a different background, who has no knowledge of what you're talking about?
Sure, I would express it the same way I did. But as in starting off, I said, The north is air, representing your potential intelligence. Okay. The south representing your resoluteness or your consciousness, your stability. The water representing your emotions and even your love for inner truth, and your body, because the water represents death, things that are temporary. The fire being the things that you see, your knowledge, your courage, your soul. So once it's explained from that perspective, then people can correlate it. Now, I made the correlation with the Orishas, but you can make them with any energy that you feel is the archetype or epitomizes those elements. So in the East, where there's knowledge or there's sight, whatever you feel your archetype of knowledge is, you may say, okay, well, if I'm dealing with the Kabbalistic system, I feel that, that represents Hod, the brilliance of the glorified intelligence. Okay, so then you might, put that symbol in that direction, so you can actually put the symbols or your understanding of each tradition wherever you want. But the key is, most of us have a basic understanding of north, south, east, and west, and center position. And that's kind of the key with coming into the understanding of black magic, is that you have to apply your funk and your twist and your soul and your art to it, or it won't work. So I could say, well, go to the north because that's where Shango is. If that's not what you feel or what you see, it's not going to work for you anyway. It doesn't matter if for billions of years the paradigm has said that's where Shango is, because the paradigm has now shifted. And the north is where you say is the north. This is only a template for you to start off with. It's just a template.
Okay. Great template, too. Okay. Of course, I share with you that this show is expected to be an hour, but we've gone into, we've gone over our hour, so I've extended another 30 minutes if that's okay with you.
Sure, that's not a problem.
Okay, perfect. So what we're going to do now is to go ahead and go to the queue and take any questions. So again, the number to call in is 805-292-0372. And I'm going to go to the first caller we have in the queue, 708. Peace and blessings. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Lady Sapphire. How are you?
Oh, I'm well. And yourself?
I'm good. Just got over the flu. And
okay.
a little bit better. Yeah. And your subject this evening is something that's been in my mind for the past couple of months. Seems to be hitting me a lot. My goals are not getting to the point where I need them to be. I'm wondering if somebody's blocking them personally.
Okay. So your question is someone blocking your goals?
Yeah, like tapping into the black magic like you were discussing earlier.
Okay. Have you practiced black magic in the past?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let our guests, take that question for you.
And a lot of people ask those questions like that. They're concerned about family curses. They're concerned about people putting hexes on them, or people causing blockages and obstacles in their lives. And at this point, for where we're at, the only blockage or obstacle that you would have in your life is your inability to hold on to power. Okay, your nervous system is built for a certain measure of power, for a certain measure of energy. Too much will overblow it. It's like trying to throw 120 volts down a paperclip. That little wire is not robust enough to handle the amount of power that's needed. So the thing that you have to do in this season is you have to build yourself up so you can handle the power that's needed to remove obstacles out of your path. But people don't have the power to do these things as much as you might think. It's very rare. Even people say I have a hex on me or a curse on me. It's very, very, very rare that that's actually the case. Most of the time, the person is in their own way, and the greatest blockage to what it is that they're trying to get done is either protection that's being given by their ancestors so that they won't go down that path. So the blockage is not always in order to be something that's backbreaking to you or something to keep you oppressed. A lot of times that blockage is protection from your ancestors, but oftentimes, sometimes just getting off the seat, per se, and initiating into what we need to do is just a product of a lack of rhythm. Okay, one of the energies that we had in ancient Egyptian culture was Shu, S-H-U, and Shu means breath. Okay, but it also means to begin. In the Orisha tradition in Yoruba land, we had Eshu. Eshu means to initiate, to begin. So one of the problems that we're facing in this time is a lack of quality breathing. And when we're not breathing properly, we're actually creating stopping points in our paths for ourselves. We're actually creating those obstacles because we're not using our divine breath properly. Okay, so one of the things that you'd want to work on now is just practicing your breathing. Something you do every day. Get a book, anyone that draws to you on breathing techniques. And then you want to start using that breathing to build up your energy levels, to build up your chi. You can use different breathing techniques to make you feel like you just took a half an hour nap. It will refresh you at that level. And then start using your energy from there to envision the moving of your obstacles that are in your path. But I guarantee you, your problem or your challenge is incorrect breathing. Guarantee you.
Yeah, and then getting sick, it just makes a lot of sense that it broke. So basically, it's kind of like breaking the spell that I was trying to go forward with my artwork, and then with me not breathing properly, having over anxiety, just changed the whole aspect of what my intention was.
Right. So that's where you want to focus your energy.
One of the techniques that you can practice is fire breathing. So when you get off the line, go and check out fire breath if you don't know what that is, because it helps to bring you back to a balance, and it gives you energy, that restoration, to be able to think creatively and be able to open up. Okay.
That sounds great.
All right. All right. Peace and blessings to you. Thanks for calling in.
All right.
That prana, I understand it. So let's go to the next caller, 865-271. Peace and blessings.
My question for Chief Yuya. This is Brother Damon, by the way, sir.
All right. Greetings, Brother Damon.
Greetings. My question is, when doing ritual work, or just work, what are some of the problems you see from the practitioner side? I mean, like a beginner side, when they're doing rituals or magic and it doesn't happen. The thing that they try to do doesn't happen. What are some of the root causes of those problems?
One of which begins with what I just said to the last person: lack of chi, lack of power. Some people come into their rituals with a very low vibration. And this is for a multitude of reasons. They're not getting enough exercise. They're not resting properly. They're not eating properly. They're not breathing properly. Okay, so again, kind of going back to those four elements of Yahweh. So if you're not mastering those four forces within your body, then that means you're not going into your ritual as a god. And that's the only way your rituals will really manifest. You can't go into your rituals as a requester, or as a petitioner or as a beggar. If you do that, then it's a very slim chance that they'll work in the way that they should. They'll work just enough so that whatever it is that you're begging will ask you to give it something else. Okay, you have to go in with a certain level of authority, and I find that for first time or early or novice practitioners, that they don't really have the courage of conviction and authority coming in yet. That's that Shango energy, where I'm not afraid of my power, I'm not afraid of my words, I'm not afraid of my potential. So it's really coming in from a more authoritative place, but also being able to understand that maybe what you're trying to do is not really what should be done right now. So one of the key things that people need to get into is some form of divination before they start doing rituals, even if it's just flipping a coin. It could be something as simple as flipping a coin. They need to get into something that first marks, should I do this? And if I do this, will it be successful? And once you're told that, yes, it will be successful, then you do your ritual, and that's that. No matter what you see within the next day, hour, whatever, it doesn't matter. You have to know without a shadow of a doubt that I flipped my coin. I said heads, if this is going to work, came up heads, I'm done. It worked. So a lot of it, again, is that courage of conviction, low vibrations. And sometimes with people who really get into occult information and metaphysics and spirituality, they develop a certain level of arrogance. They develop a certain level of cockiness because they feel that they know things that the layman doesn't know, that the masses doesn't know. And that level of cockiness and arrogance does nothing but to create a more hardened ego. So now when you're coming into a ritual with a hardened ego, you're coming in more human than divine. And the human's not going to move much. You need that divine aspect of you. So a lot of times it's egomaniacs that block ritual as well. So I would say those three would be some of the main things I see consistently amongst neophytes coming into it.
Okay. Thank you.
I feel. You're welcome.
All right, thank you for your call. Okay, our next caller, 810.
Black
Peace and
magic
blessings.
if you have just negative thoughts about someone. So say instead of going to someone and getting a voodoo doll and poking it, is it still considered black magic whether or not you're conscious of it? If you think something negative about someone or something and it happens and you had no idea you had the power to do something like that?
Okay, no, not really. First off, let's kind of clear up a qualifier for a moment. There's actually no such thing as a voodoo doll. That's something from the movies. So oftentimes fetishes and dolls were used for healing purposes. They would be filled with herbs and used to heal the person who may have been going through an ailment. But the sticking pins and stuff, it wasn't used in that fashion. So if one did see someone with a doll and they're actually legitimately practicing Vodun, don't think that they're doing something negative to you right away. Now, having a disruptive or harmful thought about someone is not necessarily black magic. Now, it can be considered a dark thing in a way if you're not willing to act upon that thought. Okay, if you're trying to send your mental brainwaves to do something that you're too cowardly to do in your own physical form, then that could almost be a form of it, but it's more like shadow magic. You're throwing a rock and hiding behind a tree. It's more things like that. What's more important to understand is that when you're sending thoughts, okay, you're dealing more with your active consciousness, and your active consciousness lives in the light. It's your subconscious that lives in the dark, or that black magic. The black magic is the subconscious. The white magic is the active consciousness. So whether you're sending a thought, a disparaging thought towards someone, or you're sending a thought towards someone's benefit, it would still be a form of white magic, whatever that form, whatever that thought is, because it's coming from your active consciousness. So black magic has nothing to do with your desire to hurt someone or your desire to heal someone. It's just a different bag that you pull the tool from.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Excellent question. I like that. Now, with that, when people think about black magic, there's so many thoughts that come to the mind because of the media. Of course, you think of black magic, like she said, the voodoo doll, or the hoodoo doll, or things like that, the serpents and the snakes and things like that. But now these same symbols can be used when you are, working black magic to actually, to manifest or to bring about change, but it's generally, or do you believe that you can use these types of images, or because the first step was imagination? So when you're using your imagination in these thought forms, how would you be able to use that in the form of black magic?
Well, that's the key, imagination and symbology. You would be using those symbols however you can imagine to use them. One of the greatest things that one can do is to create their own images. Draw your own picture of a fairy. Draw your own picture of a demon. A really strong ritual you could do is have a child draw you a picture. If a child draws you a picture, never throw those out. Keep those. Put those up in your shrine or put them in a folder somewhere. That's more powerful than that $300 book that you bought with images of ancient deities from the rainforest. Okay. So it's that creative energy, that funk, that's more powerful than anything. And that may mean any type of symbol that you make that affects you, because we're now in a place now where we're dealing with the unseen altar as opposed to the unseen shrine. And the shrine was always a thing that we used to send something up to an entity, but it was always considered to be somewhat external, whereas the altar is what we've used to alter our consciousness. So you have to use whatever image, symbols, or tools that alter your consciousness, because in doing so, you're altering the consciousness of the divine. And that's what all of these images and these deities and the archetypes on these pictures, that's what they really are waiting to happen. They're waiting for that to happen. They're waiting for the divine to change its mind, to repent. So you use whatever changes your consciousness, whatever alters it.
Okay. All right. Let's go to the next caller, 732-428. Peace and blessings.
Hello, greetings.
Greetings. Welcome.
I was wondering, if we want to perform a meditation in order to be able to spark that inner divinity of ours, where do we put our focus, or how do we meditate on something like that to perform such a task?
Right. Okay. The first thing is to understand that we're not talking about that or the inner divinity. As soon as you say that or the, you're speaking of a definitive article. Okay. The itself means God by itself. Okay, so you're talking about yourself, and really when you say even inner divinity, you're just saying, how do I become more of me? That's all. I want to be more of me. Okay, and it goes back to what we were saying before. You have to first start looking at the things that you're already doing, and you have to make a determination if that divinity is already sparked. There are things that you have done in your life that are equating up to something. They're orchestrated. They're dots that are being drawn that's creating a picture. And we're still waiting for this amazing experience where we finally take this breath, like a baby taking its first breath coming out of the womb. We want to take that first breath and say, this is the first day of me taking on the world as a goddess. And, a lot of times we don't realize that has already begun. Your new world order already started. That's why you're listening to a show like this. The divinity has already been sparked. The divine has already been sparked. Okay, so the only thing you want to do at this point, if you choose meditation to be your path, you want to use the form of meditation that allows you to create the most clear mental image of you in your glorified state. Okay, that's where you want to aim towards. And that's what imagination is. Imagination is just conjuring a mental image. Okay, so you want to imagine yourself more at your glorified state. And eventually what's going to happen when you look at yourself in the mirror, that's what you're going to see. Literally, you're going to see that. You're going to see the glorified state. You're not going to see anything other than that. And then the world will see that, because that's the only contract that you're signing with the world. Okay, however you appear to me, however you sound, was a contract that our spirits made before we had this conversation. But if you renegotiate the terms of your contract and say, you know what, I was doing the human thing for a while, now I'm going to do the divine thing strictly. I'm strictly going to be the supreme intelligence. So if you want to sign a contract with me, that's the contract you have to sign. What's going to happen in your meditation, you're going to find that through that meditation, certain people are going to start falling off of your life, out of your life, because they're not going to want to negotiate that new contract. They may not have the ability to accommodate it. They can't afford it. And people of higher vibration who are moving like divinities, they'll sign the contract with your soul and say, okay, cool. That's what you are. That's what you are. And that's what your reality will become. You will be the unleashed divinity, as opposed to just the sparked one.
All right. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Thank you for calling in. All right. Okay. Now, I don't think there's anyone else who has their hand up. I want to try this one call. I'm not sure if we went through this call or not. I believe we did. 810. Peace and blessings. Were you already spoken to? I believe they were.
You did actually.
Just hanging out listening.
Yeah, you took one of those.
Oh, great. Okay. So, I wanted to go back to children because, that's my love. I love working with children. And when you really pay attention to children, you recognize that they are in their perfect state. They are in that place of divinity. Now, you said when you come in, you're coming in the light. Now,
right.
Explain to me how when you're coming into the light, you have so much power. You already, have direction, as you said before. Have a child draw an image for you and allow that to be on your shrine or your altar, and use that, because I have young ones and I have one that loves to go around and put symbols. He just puts symbols all throughout my house, and it's never been a problem with me because I know that in his way, and he's doing whatever needs to be done to protect our home, to ensure our happiness, to ensure that he sleeps peacefully. So when you said that when you're coming in as a child, you're coming into the light, and your purpose is to descend to the place of melanin and darkness so that you can ascend once again. Explain that to me. When they come in and they have such a strong expression and identity of who they are, how does that work?
It's the coming in, falling from the light, falling into the darkness, right? So we're going down these steps, or the stairway to heaven or the stairway to hell, whichever direction you're going. Now, children who come fresh off of that light, so they still have a lot more light frequency inside of them, okay? So there's nothing shading the expression of the soul, okay? But they don't have as much character when they're young. Okay, that's why children, you can get any child to play with any child for the most part when they're at a certain age. They don't have all of the isms that we begin to develop as time goes by. Those isms are the various colors. So if we could look at it again like this, if we look at the top of the scale, let's say if we had a huge scale, like a 10-foot scale, at 10 feet would be all white. Okay, and then at 9 feet would be like white, maybe with a little red in it. And then at 8 feet will be red, and then at 7 feet will be blue, and then we just keep going, and it will be color until we get to 2 feet. 2 feet would be a color, maybe orange with a little bit of black. And then at 1 foot, you'd be at all black again. Okay. So now if we were to look at that highest height where the baby first comes in at, which is 10 feet, that's God. That's where God resides. That's heaven. That's heaven, the unseen world. Then God falls through this color spectrum, which some of us call the angels, the Orisha, the natural. We went through the list before. But these different archetypes in their human life and human reality, this is colored. Okay. And because these are the mundane things that exist within the world are the things of colors that we can actually see. And then when they get to their rightness, they fall into complete darkness, what we're talking about today, the black magic. And that's one of the reasons why, the best people to be around are children and old people. Everybody pretty much in between just has too many hang-ups, because they're dealing with all of those different color spectrums, all of those different orisha and archetypes and entities that they're trying to serve and be like are nothing but a headache. Okay, because what they're doing is they're coloring and they're shading, and if they're not used properly, they're blocking the expression of the soul. So just like when you speak to an old person and you tell them about something that you're going through, they might not even care. They be like, yeah, well, bring my chair over here, because they've been through the journey through this world where they realize, listen, the stuff that you attach to in this human reality doesn't even mean anything. But you'll find out when you get my age. It's completely insignificant. And just like a child comes in with no ego, that's why children can see fairies, sprites, entities, apparitions, so forth and so on, because they don't have the ego blocking trying to judge every experience. So that's why there's that fall from light to dark. Now, in the light, you can't see anything because it's all light. Take a flashlight, put it in your eyes, you're blinded. And in the dark, you can't see anything because it's all dark. So when we understand that God resides in the light, God resides in the dark, we have to acknowledge that God resides in a place where God doesn't know anything and is searching for something because it's blinded. God is blinded. Okay. So that's the fall or the association with children. And of course, when we're dealing with elders, that would be that darker end of the spectrum, or that heavier, that riper, as you said earlier, that sweeter space where now they've toiled and they can taste that sweet wine from the vines or from the grapes that they planted earlier in life. It's that sweetness, only to be redeemed right back up to the light again.
That feels really good. Thank you so much for coming through and sharing your wisdom with us. I've learned a lot myself. I'm sitting back. I'm going to absorb it, and I'm going to deep breathe through it and work it out for my own, for myself. And I'm sure that our listeners will as well. So before we go, please let everyone know where they can find you. If they would like to get a reading, because you do readings as well, correct?
That's correct, yes.
So I have your word coming back?
You have my word.
All right, well, thank you so much. And for everyone that's listening, this is Magic Monday here at Lady Sapphire Radio. And I'm thanking you so much in advance for being with us. And, go back and listen and archive. There's a lot of information that...
For all those in the Rhode Island area, please check out our Chief Jegna, Yuya Assaan-ANU, at Positive New Beginnings on Saturday, February 8th from 2 to 4 p.m., where he will be hosting a workshop on self-actualization with the cosmic forces of West Africa. In this workshop, you will learn how to self-actualize through the universal energies that govern the laws and character of the cosmos. This workshop is a continuation of the Unleashing of Cosmic Forces of West Africa series that is currently being enjoyed by thousands of listeners on Chief Yuya's popular Blog Talk Radio show, Enlightenment and Transformation. At this workshop, 15-minute readings will be offered for $20, as well as the Phase 1 spiritual training class will be offered at 50% off for the workshop Self-Actualization with the Cosmic Forces of West Africa. The workshop is Saturday, February 8th from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at Positive New Beginnings, which is located at 877 Broadway, East Providence, Rhode Island. The cost of this event is $13 at the door. However, as a special discount for those who RSVP on meetup.com and pay in advance, your entrance fee will only be $10. The meetup site is www.meetup.com meetup.com/African-spirit-workers. Be prepared to change your life through aligning your spiritual faculties with their corresponding cosmic archetypes. Meet Chief Jegna H. Yuya Assaan-ANU at Positive New Beginnings on Saturday, February 8th from 2 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, located at 877 Broadway, East Providence, Rhode Island, for the workshop Self-Actualization with the Cosmic Forces of West Africa.